This play is called Our Town. It was written by Thornton Wilder and is produced here by Dunwoody United Methodist Church. The name of our town is Grover's Corners, New Hampshire, just across the line from Massachusetts. Latitude 42 degrees 40 minutes, longitude 70 degrees 37 minutes. The first act shows a day in our town. The date is May 7th, 1901, just before dawn. Yeah, just about. The sky's beginning to show some streaks of light in the east there over behind our mountain. Oh, the morning star always looks wonderful and bright. The moment right before it has to go. Well, let me show you how our town lies. Up here is Main Street. Running across it over there are the railroad tracks, and across the tracks is Polish Town. You know, some foreign people come to work in our mill, a couple of Canuck families and the Catholic Church. Over there is the Congregational Church. Across the street is the Presbyterians, and there is the Methodists and the Unitarians. Baptists are down in the hollow by the river. Next to the post office is the town hall. Jail's in the basement. Brian once made a speech from those very steps right there. Now, running along Main Street is a row of stores, hitching posts, and horse blocks in front of them. The first car's not going to come along for about 5 years. Belonged to Banker Cartwright. Our town's wealthiest citizen lives in the big White House up there on the hill. And there's the grocery store, and there's Mr. Morgan's drugstore. Most everybody manages to look into one of those two stores at least once a day. And this is our doctor's house, Doc Gibbs. And this is the back door, and here are a couple of trellises for those of you who feel you must have scenery. And this is Mrs. Gibbs' garden. Peas, beans, corn, hollyhock, heliotrope, and a lot of burdock. In those days, our newspaper came out twice a week, Grover's Corners Sentinel. And this is Editor Webb's house, and this is Mrs. Webb's garden. Same as Mrs. Gibbs, only got some sunflower too. And this is a big butternut tree. Nice town, you know what I mean? Nobody very remarkable ever come out of it, as far as we know. First dates up there in the cemetery, say 1670s, there's Grovers and Cartwrights, Gibbses, Hearses, same names as around here now. Like I said, it's early morning. Only lights on in town are over next to the tracks in a cottage where a Polish mother's just had twins, and over in Joe Crowell's house where Joe Jr. is getting ready to deliver the morning paper, and down at the depot where Shorty Hawkins is about to flag the 5:45 for Boston. Yep, there it is. Now, another day's begun. Doc Gibbs is coming down Main Street, coming back from that baby case, and Mrs. Gibbs is coming downstairs, coming down to make breakfast. You know, Doc Gibbs died in 1930. New hospital's named for him. Mrs. Gibbs died first, a long time ago in fact. She'd gone out to visit her daughter, Rebecca, who had married an insurance salesman in Canton, Ohio, and she died there. Pneumonia. But her body was brought back here, and now she's up there in the cemetery with a whole mess of Gibbses and Hearses. She was Julia Hersey, before she married Doc Gibbs in the Congregational Church there. In our town, we like to know the facts about everybody. Now, there's Mrs. Gibbs come down to make breakfast too, and here come Doc Gibbs. Got the call about 1:30 to go on that baby case this morning, and there's Joe Crowder delivering the morning supper.
Morning, Doc.
Morning, Joe.
Want the paper now?
Yes, I'll take it.
Anybody been sick, Doc?
No, some twins over in Polish Town. Say, Joe, I see your teacher, Miss Foster, is going to get married.
Yes, sir. Fellow over in Concord.
I declare. How do you boys feel about that?
Well, of course, it ain't none of my business. But I think if a person starts out to be a teacher, she ought to stay one.
How's your knee, Joe?
Fine, Doc. Never think about it at all. Well, like you said, always telling me when it's going to rain.
What's it telling you today? It's going to rain?
No, sir.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Knee ever make a mistake?
No, sir.
I want to tell you something about that boy, Joe Crowell there. Awful bright, Joe was. Graduated from my high school here, head of his class. Got a scholarship to Boston Tech, MIT. Graduated head of his class there too. Written up in all the Boston papers at the time. Going to be a great engineer, Joe was. Then the war broke out. He died in France. All that education for nothing. What business he had picking a quarrel with the Germans we can't make out to this day, but it did seem awfully clear to us at the time.
Get up, Betsy. What's that with you?
Here comes Hal Newsom, delivering the milk.
Morning, Doc.
Morning, Howard.
Somebody sick?
Pair of twins over Miss Gorlowski's.
Twins, eh? This town's getting bigger every year.
Going to rain, Howard?
No. Fine day. It'll burn through. Come on, Betsy.
Hello, Bessie. How old is she, Howard?
Oh, she's going on 17. Old Bessie's all mixed up about the route ever since the Lockhart stopped taking a quart of milk every day. Wants to stop and give him a quart just the same. Keeps scolding me the whole trip.
Good morning, Howard.
Morning, Miss Gibbs. Doc's just coming up the street.
Is he? Seems like you're late today.
Yep. Something went wrong with the separator. Don't know what it was.
Children, time to get up.
Now,
Howard?
George, Rebecca,
come on, Betsy.
George. Everything all right, Frank?
Yes, I declare easy as kittens.
Bacon will be ready in a minute. Sit down and drink your coffee. You can catch a couple hours sleep this morning, can't you?
Miss Wentworth's coming in at 11. Guess I know what it's about, too. My stomach ain't what it ought to be.
All told you won't get more than 3 hours sleep. Frank Gibbs, I declare I don't know what's going to become of you. I do wish you could get away someplace for a rest. I think it would do you good.
Emily, time to get up. Wally, 7 o'clock.
I declare, you've got to speak to George. Something's come over him lately. He's no help to me at all. I can't even get him to cut me some wood.
Is he sassy, too?
No, he just whines. All he thinks about is that baseball. George? Rebecca, you'll be late for school.
George, look sharp.
Yes, Pop.
Don't you hear your mother calling you?
Wally, you're going to be late for school.
I guess I'll go upstairs and take those 40 winks.
Wally, you wash yourself good or I'll come up there and do it myself.
Mom, what dress should I wear?
Don't make a noise. Your father's been out all night and he needs his sleep. I washed and ironed the blue gingham for you special.
Oh, Mom, I hate that dress.
Oh, hush up with you.
Every day I go to school dressed like a steak turkey.
Now, Rebecca, you always look very nice.
Mama, George is throwing soap at me.
I'll come up there and slap the both of you. That's what I'll do.
We got a mill in our town. Here. Makes blankets. Cartwrights on them. From them a fortune.
Now, children, I won't have it. Breakfast is just as good as any meal, and I won't have you gobbled it like wolf. It'll stunt your growth, you know. Wally, put that book away.
Oh, Mom, by 10 o'clock I got to know all about Canada.
You know the rules as well as I do. No books at the breakfast table. As for me, I'd rather have my children healthy as bright.
I'm both, Mama. You know I am. I'm the brightest girl in school for my age. I have a wonderful memory.
Eat your breakfast.
I'll speak to your father about it when he's rested. Seems to me 25 cents a week's enough for a boy of your age. I I declare I don't know how you spend it all.
Well, I got a lot of things to buy.
Strawberry phosphates, that's what you spend it on.
I don't see how Rebecca comes to have so much money. She has more than $1.
I've been saving it up gradually.
Now, dear, I think it's a good thing to spend some every now and then.
Mama, do you know what I love most in the world? Money.
Eat your breakfast.
Let's go.
You can walk fast, but you don't need to run. Wally, pull your pants up at the knee.
Tell your Miss Foster that I send her my best congratulations. Now, can you remember that?
Yes, Mama.
You look very nice, Rebecca. Pick up your feet. Here, chick, chick, chick. No, you. Get away, you. Here, chick, chick. What's the matter with you? Fight, fight, fight. That's all you do. Where'd you come from? You don't belong to me. Oh, don't be scared. Nobody's gonna hurt you. Good morning, Myrtle. How's your cold?
Well, I still got that tickling feeling in my throat. Told Charles didn't know as I'd go to choir rehearsal tonight.
Have you tried singing over your voice?
Well, I can't seem to do that and stay on the key. Whilst I'm resting myself, I thought I'd string some of these beans for winter.
Let me help you. Things have been good this year.
Hey, I promised myself I'd put up 40 quarts if it kills me. Children say they hate them, but I notice they're able to get them down all winter.
Now, Myrtle, I've got to tell you something, because if I don't tell somebody, I'll burst.
Why, Julia Gibbs.
Myrtle, did one of those second-hand furniture men from Boston come to see you last Friday?
No.
Well, he called on me. First, I thought he was a patient, wanted to see Dr. Gibbs, and he wormed his way into my parlor. And Myrtle Webb, he offered me $350 for Grandmother Wentworth's highboy as I'm sitting here.
Why, Julia Gibbs.
He did. That old thing, well, it was so big I didn't even know where to put it, and I almost gave it to Cousin Hester Wilcox.
Well, you're going to take it, aren't you?
I don't know.
You don't know. $350 has come over you.
Well, if I could get the doctor to take it and go away someplace on a trip, I'd sell it like that. You know, Myrtle, it's been the dream of my life to see Paris, France. Oh, I know, it sounds crazy, I suppose. But for years I've been promising myself that if we ever got the chance to go see Paris and go to Europe, I'd go.
How does the doctor feel about it?
Well, I did leave after Bushel and said if I got that legacy, that's the way I put it, then
what do you say about
I'd
that?
make him take me. No, you know how he is. I haven't heard a serious word out of him since I've known him. No, he says, might make him discontented with Grover's Corners to go traipsing about Europe. Better let well enough alone, he says. Every 2 years, he takes a trip to the battlefields of the Civil War. That's enough treat for anybody, he says.
Well, Mr. Webb just admires the way Dr. Gibbs knows everything about the Civil War. Why, Mr. Webb's of a mind to give up on Napoleon and move over to the Civil War. Only Dr. Gibbs, being one of the greatest experts in the country, just causes him despair.
It's a fact. Dr. Gibbs is never so happy as when he's at Antietam or Gettysburg. Times I've walked over those hills, Myrtle, stopping at every bush and pacing it all out like we was going to buy it.
Well, if that second-hand man's serious about buying it, Julia, I'd sell it. You'll get to see Paris all right. Just keep dropping hints from time to time. That's how I got to see the Atlantic Ocean.
Oh, I'm sorry I mentioned it. Only it seems to me that once in your life before you die, you ought to see a country where they don't talk in English and they don't even want to.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies. Now, we'll skip ahead a couple hours, but first we want a little more information about our town, a kind of scientific account, if you will. So I've asked Professor Willard of our state university to fill in a few details about our history here. Professor Willard. May I introduce Professor Willard of our state university. Just a few brief notes, if you will, Professor. I'm afraid we don't have much time.
Grover's Corners. Let me see. Grover's Corners lies on the old Pleistocene granite of the Appalachian Range. Some of the oldest land in the world. You're very proud of that pier. Of course, there are more recent outcroppings, sandstone, showing through a shelf of Devonian basalt, with vestiges of Mesozoic shale. Of course, those are relatively new. Perhaps 300 million years. Some interesting fossils have been found. I may say unique fossils. 2 miles north of the Peckham Farm, in Silas Peckham's cow pasture. You can see them in the museum at the university at any time. That is, in reasonable time. Shall I read some of Professor Gruber's notes on the meteorological situation, mean precipitation, etc., etc.?
No. I'm afraid we won't have time for that, Professor, but we might have a few words about the history of man here.
Oh, anthropological data?
Yeah.
Early Amerindian stock, Cotahatchee tribes. No evidence before the 10th century of this era, now entirely disappeared. Oh, some traces in 3 families, migration in the late 17th century of English brachiocephalic blue-eyed stock. Since then, some Slav, Mediterranean.
And the population, Professor?
Population within the town limits, 2,640.
Just a moment, Professor.
The population at the moment is 2,642. The postal district brings in 507 more, making a total of 3,149. Mortality, birth rates, constant, by the McPherson gauge, 6.032.
Thank you very much, Professor. I'm sure we're all very much surprised, obliged. Thank you very much.
Not at all, sir, not at all.
But now, we'll go on to the political and social report with Editor Webb. Oh, Mr. Webb!
Oh, give me just a minute. He just cut his hand while sneaking an apple.
Oh, thank you, Mrs. Webb.
Charles, everybody's waiting.
Mr. Webb is editor of our Rovers Corner Sentinel. That's our local newspaper, you know.
Well, I don't have to tell you that we're run here by a board of selectmen. All males vote at the age of 21 and women vote indirect. Politically, we're 86% Republicans, 6% Democrats, 4% Socialists, and the rest indifferent. Religiously, we're 85% Protestants, 12% Catholics, the rest indifferent.
Any comments, Mr. Webb?
Well, very ordinary town, if you ask me. A little better behaved than most and probably a lot duller. But our young people here seem to like it well enough. 90% of them graduate from high school, settle down right here to live, even when they've been away to college.
Now, is there anybody in our audience who would like to ask Editor Webb a question about our town?
Is there much drinking in Rovers Corner?
Oh, ma'am, I don't know what you'd call much. Saturday night, the farmhands meet down at Ellery Greeno Stable in Hollistown. We've got 1 or 2 town drunks, but they're always having remorses every time an evangelist comes to town. No, ma'am, I'd say liquor ain't a regular thing in the home here, except in the medicine chest. It's right good for snake bites, you know. Always was.
Is there anyone in town aware of...
Excuse me. Could you step up a little bit and so we can hear what you're saying? What was it you wanted to ask now?
Is there no one in town aware of social injustice or industrial inequality?
Oh, yes, everybody is. Something terrible. Seems like they spend most of their time talking about who's rich and who's poor.
Then why don't they do something about it?
Well, I don't know. I guess we're all hunting, like everyone else, for a way that the diligent and sensible can rise to the top, and the lazy and quarrelsome sink to the bottom. But it ain't easy. Meantime, we do all we can to help those who can't take care of themselves, and the rest we leave alone. Are there any other questions?
Oh, Mr. Webb.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Mr. Webb,
there any culture or love of beauty in Grover's Corner?
Well, ma'am, there ain't much, not in the sense you mean. Come to think of it, there are some girls that play the piano down at high school commencement, but they ain't too happy about it. No, ma'am, there isn't much culture. But maybe this is the place to tell you that we've got a lot of pleasures of a kind here. We like the sun coming up over the mountain in the morning. And we all notice a good deal about the birds. Yes, we pay a lot of attention to them. And we watch the change of seasons. Yes, everybody knows about them. But those other things, you're right, ma'am, there ain't much. Robinson Crusoe and the Bible, Handel's Largo, we all know that. Whistler's Mother, those are just about as far as we go.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Webb. Now, let's get back to town. It's 2 o'clock. All 2,642 have had their lunches, and all the dishes have been washed. The children have gone back to school, and there's a buzzing and a humming around the schoolhouse, and only a few buggies on Main Street, horses dozing at the hitching post. You know how it is. There's a kind of quiet afternoon calm about the town. Doc Gibbs is in his office tapping people and making them say ah. And Mr. Webb is cutting his lawn. One man in 10 thinks it's a privilege to push his own lawnmower.
I can't, Lois. I've got to go home and help my mother, I promise.
Emily, walk simply. Who do you think you are today?
Oh, Papa, you're terrible. One minute you tell me to stand up straight, and the next minute you call me names. I just don't listen to you.
Oh, golly, never got a kiss from such a great lady before.
Excuse me, Miss Ford.
Go out and play in the field, young man. You got no business playing baseball on Main Street.
Awfully sorry, Miss Ford. Hello, Emily.
Hello.
Oh, you made a fine speech in class today.
I was really ready to make a speech about the Monroe Doctrine, but at the last minute, Miss Corcoran made me talk about the Louisiana Purchase instead. I worked an awful long time on both of them.
You know, it's funny, Emily. From my window up there, I can just see your head over in your room nights while you're doing your homework.
Why, can you?
You certainly do stick to it. I don't see I can sit still that long. You must really like school.
Well, I figure it's just something you have to go through.
Yeah.
I don't mind it, really. It passes the time.
Yeah. Emily, what do you say we set up a kind of telegraph from my window to yours, and maybe every once in a while you can give me a kind of hint or two about one of them algebra problems? I don't mean the answers, Emily. Of course not. Just maybe a hint.
Well, I suppose hints are allowed. So, if you get stuck, George, you whistle to me and I'll give you some hints.
You're just naturally bright, I guess.
I figure it's just the way a person's born.
Yeah, but you see, I want to be a farmer, and my Uncle Lucas said that I can just come over and start working on his farm, and if I'm any good, I can just kind of gradually have it.
You mean the house and everything?
Oh, yeah! Well, thanks for the talk, Emily. Good afternoon, Mrs. Webb.
Good afternoon, George.
So long, Emily.
So long, George.
Emily, come help me string these beans for winter. Well, that George Gibbs allowed himself to have a real conversation, didn't he? He's growing up. How old would he be?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, he must be almost 16 now.
Mama, I made a speech in class today and it was very good.
Well, you'll have to repeat it for your father at supper. What was it about?
The Louisiana Purchase. It was like silk off a spool. I'm going to make speeches all my life. Mama, are these big enough?
Try and get them a little bigger if you can, dear.
Mama, will you answer me a question serious?
Seriously, dear, not serious.
Seriously, will you?
Of course I will.
Mama, am I pretty?
Well, of course you are. Both of my children have good features. I'd be ashamed if they hadn't.
Mama, that's not what I mean. What I mean is, am I good looking?
I already told you yes. Now that's enough about that. You have a nice, young, pretty face. That's enough of that foolishness.
Mommy, you never tell us the truth about anything.
I am telling you the truth.
Mama, were you pretty?
Well, yes, I was, if I must say it. I was the prettiest girl in town, next to Mamie Cartwright.
But Mommy, you've got to say something about me. Am I pretty enough to get people interested in me?
Emily, you're making me tired. Now stop it. You're pretty enough for all normal purposes. Now bring that bowl and come along.
Mama, you're no help at all.
Now I think is a good time to tell you that the Cartwright interest have begun building a new bank in Grover's Corners. Had to go to Vermont for the marvel, I'm sorry to say. And they asked a friend of mine what they should put in the cornerstone for people to dig up 1,000 years from now. Well, they're putting a copy of the New York Times and a copy of Mr. Webb's Sentinel. We're all kind of interested in this because some scientific fellas have figured out a way of painting all this material with a glue, a kind of silica glue, make it last for 1,000, 2,000 years. And they're putting in a copy of the Constitution of the United States and the Bible and William Shakespeare's plays. What do you say, folks? What do you think? I mean, Babylon once had over 2 million people in it, and all we know about them is names of some kings, some wheat contracts, some sales of slaves. Every evening, families sat down to supper. Husband come home from work and smoked up the chimney, same as around here now. And in Greece and Rome, all we know about the real life of the people is what we can make out from some joking poems or from some comedies they wrote for the theater back then. So what do you say? I'm going to have a copy of this play put into the cornerstone so that people 1,000 years from now will know a few facts about us, more than just the Treaty of Versailles or the Lindbergh flight, so that 1,000 years from now, this is the way we were in the provinces north of New York at the end of the 20th century. This is the way we were in our growing up, in our marrying, in our living, and in our dying. Now we get back to Grover's Corners. It's evening. You can hear choir practice going on at the Congregational Church. Children at home doing the schoolwork, and days running down like a tired clock.
And remember, lady, music came into the world to bring pleasure. Now, try it again. Try it again. Get it out of your heads that in order to be good, music's gotta be loud. You leave loudness to the Methodists. You could beat them even if you wanted to anyway. All right. Now, let's do it again. Tennis.
Emily.
Hello.
Hello.
I can't work at all. The moonlight's so terrible.
Emily, did you get the third problem?
Which?
The third.
Why, yes, George, that's the easiest of them all.
I don't see it. Can you give me a hint?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. The answer is in yards.
In yards? How do you mean?
Yes, in square yards.
Oh, in square yards.
Yes, George, don't you see?
Yes?
In square yards of wallpaper.
Oh, square yards of wallpaper. Thanks, Emily.
You're welcome. Isn't the moonlight just terrible? In choir practice going on, I think if you hold your breath, you can hear the train all the way to Contoocook. Do you hear it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess I better get back and try to work.
Good night, Emily.
Good night, George.
Well, that wasn't bad. Ain't no miracle, but wasn't bad. Listen, before I forget, how many of you be able to come in Tuesday afternoon and sing at Fred Percy's wedding? Raise your hands. Huh? Okay. That's good. That'd be right nice. All right. Okay. Now, art thou weary, art thou languid? It's a question, ladies and gentlemen. Naked talk.
George, can you come down a minute?
Oh, yes, Pa.
And listen, on Sunday, take the second verse. Be real soft and kind of dial it at the end. Okay.
Make yourself comfortable, George. I'll only keep you a minute. George, how old are you?
Me, I'm 16. I'm almost 17.
What do you want to do after school's over?
You know, Pa, I want to be a farmer on Uncle Luke's farm.
You'll be willing, will you, to get up early and milk and feed the stock? And you'll be able to hoe and hay all day?
Of course I will. What do you mean?
Well, George, while I was in my office today, I heard a funny sound. But what do you think it was? It was your mother, chopping wood. There you see your mother, getting up early, cooking meals all day long, washing and ironing, and still she has to go out into the backyard and chop wood. I suppose she just got tired of asking you. She just gave up and decided it was easier to do it herself. And you eat her meals, and you put on the clothes that she keeps nice for you. And you run off and play baseball like she's some hired girl we keep around the house, but that we don't like very much. Well, I knew all I had to do was call your attention to it. Here's a handkerchief, son. George, I've decided to raise your spending money 25 cents a week. Not, of course, for chopping wood for your mother, because that's a sort of present that you give to her. But because you're getting older, and I imagine there are lots of things you must think to do with it.
Thanks, Pa.
Let's see. Tomorrow's payday. You can count on it. Probably Rebecca will feel she ought to have some more too. Wonder what could have kept your mother tonight? Our practice never was as late as this before.
It's only 8:30, Pa.
I don't know why she's in that old choir anyway. She hasn't got any more voice than an old crow. Her traipsing around the streets this hour of the night. Just about time you retire, don't you think?
Yes, Pa.
Good night, Martha. Good night, Mr. Foster.
I'll be sure and tell Mr. Webb. I'm sure he'll want to put it in the paper.
My, it's late.
Good night, Irma.
Real nice choir practice, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Merle Webb, look at that moon, will you? Potato weather for sure.
Well, naturally, I didn't want to say a word about it in front of those others. But now that we're alone, well, really, it is the worst scandal to ever hit this town.
What?
Simon Stimson.
Now, Luella.
But Julia, to have the organist of a church drink and drunk year after year.
Luella.
Julia, you know he was drunk tonight.
We all know about Mr. Stimson, and we all know about the troubles he's been through. And Dr. Ferguson knows it too. And if Dr. Ferguson keeps him on there in his job, all the rest of us can do is just not notice it.
Not notice it, but it's getting worse.
It is not getting worse, it's getting better. I've been a member of that choir twice as long as you have, and it doesn't happen nearly as often. Oh, I hate to go to bed on a night like this. Oh, gracious, I should hurry. The children will be up till all hours. Good night, Luella. Julia.
Good night, Myrtle. Can you get home safe, Luella?
Oh, it's as bright as day. I can see Mr. Soames scowling at the window now. Honestly, you'd think we'd been to a dance the way these menfolk carry on. Good night, Julia.
Good night, Luella.
See you on Sunday.
See you then. Well, we had a real nice time.
You're late enough.
Oh, it ain't no later than usual, Frank.
You stopping at the corner to gossip with a lot of hens.
Don't be grouchy, Frank. Come out and smell my heliotrope in the moonlight. Come on. Isn't that wonderful? What did you do all the time I was away?
Oh, I read as usual. What were those girls gossiping about tonight?
Well, believe me, there was something to gossip about.
Simon Stimson far gone, was he?
Worst I've ever seen him. Frank, how'll that end? Dr. Ferguson can't forgive him forever.
I guess I know more about Simon Stimson's affairs than anybody in this town. Some people ain't made for small town life. I don't know how that'll end. The only thing we can do is just leave it alone. Now, get in.
No, not yet. I'm worried about you, Frank.
What are you worried about?
Well, I feel it is my duty to make plans for you to get away for a real rest and change. And if I get that legacy, I'm going to insist on it.
Now, Julia, there's no sense in going over that again.
Frank, you're just unreasonable.
Julia, it's getting late. First thing you'll know, you'll catch a cold. I gave George a piece of my mind tonight. Reckon you'll have your wood chopped. For a while, anyway. Nope, sorry. Getting upstairs.
Oh dear, there's always so many things to pick up, seems like. You know, Mrs. Fairchild always locks her front door every night. All those people up that part of town do.
They all get citified. That's the trouble with them. They haven't got anything fit to burgle, and everybody knows it.
Get out, Rebecca. There's only room for one at this window.
Let me look just a minute.
Use your own window.
I did, but there's no moon there. George, do you know what I think, do you? I think maybe the moon's getting nearer and nearer. There'll be a big explosion.
Rebecca, you don't know nothing. If the moon were getting nearer and nearer, all those men that stay up at night with them telescopes would have seen it first, and they would have told us about it, and it'd be in all the newspapers.
Well, George, is the moon shining on South America, Canada, and half the whole world?
Probably is.
9:30. Most of the lights on the town are out. There's Constable Warren checking a few doors on Main Street, and here comes Mr. Webb after putting his newspaper to bed.
Good evening, Bill.
Evening, Mr. Webb.
Quite a moon.
Yeah.
All quiet tonight?
Yeah. Simon Stimson's rolling around a little. Just saw his wife moving out to the front door. So I looked the other way. There he is now.
Good evening. Most of the town settled down for the night pretty well, Simon. Evening. Yes, most of the town settled down for the night. I guess we better do the same. Can I walk along a ways with you? Good night.
I don't know how that's going to end, Mr. Webb.
Well, he's seen a peck of trouble. One thing after another. Oh, Bill, you see my boy smoking cigarettes? Just give him a word, will you? He thinks a lot of you, Bill.
I don't think he's smoking those cigarettes, Mr. Webb. Well, at least weighs not more than 2 or 3 a year.
I hope not. Good night, Bill.
Good night, Mr. Webb.
Who's that up there? Is that you, Myrtle?
No, it's me, Papa.
Why aren't you in bed?
I don't know, I just can't sleep yet. The moonlight's so wonderful, and the smell of Mrs. Gibbs' heliotrope. Can you smell it?
Yes. Haven't any troubles on your mind, have you, Emily?
Troubles, Papa? No.
Well, don't let your mother get you. Good night, Emily.
Good night, Papa.
I never told you about that letter Jane Crowfoot got from the Crowfoot farm when she was sick. Got from her minister when she was sick. He wrote her a letter, and on the envelope it was like this. Jane Crowfoot, the Crowfoot Farm, Grover's Corners, Sutton County, New Hampshire, the United States of America.
What's so funny about that?
But listen, I wasn't finished yet. The United States of America, the continent of North America, Western Hemisphere, the Earth, the solar system, the universe, the mind of God. That's what it said on the envelope.
But what do you know?
Yep, the postman got it just the same.
What do you know?
That's the end of the first act, folks. You can go out and smoke now. Those of you that smoke. Years have gone by. Sun's come up over 1,000 times. Summers and winters have cracked the mountain a little, and rain's brought down some of the dirt. Some babies that weren't even born before have begun talking in regular sentences. And some folks that thought they were quite young and spry have noticed they can't bound up a flight of stairs like they used to without the heart's fluttering a little. All that can happen in 1,000 days. Nature's been pushing and contriving too. Some of our young people fell in love and got married. Yes, the mountains got away a few fractions of an inch, and millions of gallons of water have passed by our mill. And here and there, a home was set up under a roof. Now, almost everybody gets married. You know what I mean? In our town, there are hardly any exceptions. Almost everybody crawls into their grave married. The first act was called the daily life. This act is called love and marriage. So it's 3 years later, it's 1904, it's July 7th, just after high school. That's when most of our young people jump up and get married. So, that's as soon as they pass their last examinations in Cicero's orations and solid geometry, that's the time they feel they're fit to get married. It's early morning again. Only this time, it's been raining. It's been thundering hard. Mrs. Gibbs' garden and Mrs. Webb's drenched. All those bean poles and pea vines drenched. Yesterday, all along Main Street, rain looked like curtains being blown along. Well, I don't know. Could begin again any minute. That's the 510 from Boston. And here comes Mrs. Gibbs and Mrs. Webb. come downstairs to make breakfast just like this were any ordinary day. Now, I don't have to point out to you ladies in the audience that both these ladies you see before you have made 3 meals a day, every day of their life, one for 40 years and one for 20, and never had a summer vacation. Raised 2 children apiece, cleaned, washed, and never had a nervous breakdown. Never felt themselves ill-used either. It's like what one of those Midwestern poets said, you gotta have life to love life, and you gotta love life to have life. It's what they call a vicious circle.
Get up, Bessie.
Here comes Howard Newsom delivering the milk, and Si Crowell delivering the papers just like his brother before him.
Morning, Howie. Morning, Si. Anything in the papers I ought to know?
Not much, except for losing about the best baseball pitcher Grover's Corners ever had.
Yep, reckon he is.
Now all he'll be doing is pitching hay.
Oh! Bessie, I can stop and talk if I have a mind to.
He could hit, too, and run bases.
Yep, mighty fine ball player.
I still see why a guy like that would give it all up just to get married. Would you have, Howie?
Can't say, Si. Never had no talent that way.
Morning, Howie.
Hello, Bill. You're up early.
Seeing what I can do to prevent a flood. River's been rising all night long.
Yes, Si Crowell here's all broken up over George Gibbs retiring from baseball.
Yes, sir. That's the way it goes. In '84, we had a player, Si, even George Gibbs couldn't have touched. Named Hank Todd. Went down to Maine, became a parson. Wonderful ball player. How? How's this weather seem to you?
Oh, ain't bad. I think maybe it'll clear up. Bill? Morning, Miss Gibbs.
Morning, Howie.
Too bad about the weather. It's been raining so heavy, I think maybe it'll clear up.
Well, I certainly hope it will.
How much you be wanting today?
I'm having a house full of relations, Howie, so seems to me I'll need 3 milk and 2 of cream.
3 of milk and 2 of cream. My wife says to tell you how we hope they'll be happy. We know they will.
Thanks a lot, Howie. Tell your wife I hope she gets to the wedding.
Maybe she can. She'll get there if she can. Morning, Miss Webb.
Good morning, Mr. Newsom. I told you 4 quarts of milk, but I'm hoping you can spare me another.
Oh, yes, and 2 of cream.
Will it rain again, Howie?
I was just telling Miss Gibbs how I think it'll maybe clear up. My wife told me special to tell you how we hope they'll be happy. We know they will.
Well, we thank you and we thank Miss Newsom. Counting on seeing you at the church.
Oh, we'll get there for sure. Couldn't miss that. Come on, Bessie.
Well, Ma, the day has come. Losing one of your chicks?
Don't you say another word, Frank Gibbs. I feel like crying every minute. You sit down and drink your coffee.
Groom's up shaving himself. Only there ain't an awful lot to shave. Whistling and singing like he's glad to leave us. Every now and then he says, I do, to the mirror. It don't sound convincing to me.
I don't know how he'll get along, Frank. I've arranged his clothes and seen to his feet are dry and he's got warm things on. They're too young, Frank, and we won't think of such things. He'll catch his double cold within a week.
I remember my wedding morning, Julia.
Oh, don't start that, Frank Gibbs.
I was the scaredest young fellow in the state of New Hampshire. Thought I'd made a mistake for sure. When I saw you coming down the aisle, I thought you were the prettiest girl I'd ever seen. The only trouble was I'd never seen you before. There I was in the Congregational Church marrying a total stranger.
How do you think I felt? Weddings are perfectly awful things, Frank. Just farces, that's what they are. Here, I made something for you.
Why, Julia Hersey, French toast.
It ain't hard to make, and I had to do something.
How'd you sleep last night, Julia?
Well, I heard a lot of the hours struck off.
I get a shock every time I think about George setting out to be a family man. That great cangling thing. I tell you, Julia, there's nothing more terrifying in the world than a son. The relation of a father and son is the damnedest, awkwardest.
Well, mother and daughter is no picnic, let me tell you.
They'll have a lot of troubles, I suppose, but that's none of our business. Everybody's got a right to their own troubles.
Hey, people are meant to live in this world 2 by 2. It ain't natural to be lonesome.
Julie, do you know one of the things I was scared of when I first married you?
Oh, go on.
I was afraid we wouldn't have material for conversation more than last us a few weeks. I was afraid we'd run out and eat our meals in silence. That's a fact. Well, you and I have been conversing for 20 years now without any noticeable barren spells.
Oh, good weather, bad weather. Ain't very choice, but I always find something to say. Did you hear Rebecca stirring around upstairs?
No. Only day of the year Rebecca hasn't been managing everybody's business up there. I got the idea she's crying. She's hiding in her room.
Lord's sakes, this has got to stop. Rebecca, come get your breakfast.
Morning, everybody. Only 4 more hours to live.
George,
I'm just crossing the grass to see my girl.
you put on your rubbers. It's raining torrents. You don't go out of this house without you're prepared for it.
It's just a step.
You'll catch your death of cold and cough all through the service.
George, do as your mother tells you.
From tomorrow on, you can kill yourself in all weathers, but while you're in my house, you'll live wisely, thank you. Perhaps Mrs. Webb isn't used to callers at 7 o'clock in the morning. Here, take a cup of coffee first.
I'll just be a minute. Morning, Mother Webb.
Gracious, George, you frighten me. Now, I hate to say it, you can come stand in out of the rain for a minute, but you must understand I can't ask you in.
Why not?
Well, everybody knows a groom can't see his bride on his wedding day till he sees her in church.
It's just a silly superstition. Good morning, Mr. Webb.
Good morning, George.
Mr. Webb, you don't believe in that superstition, do you?
There's a lot of common sense in superstitions, George.
Millions have followed it, George, and I don't want you to be the one that flies in the face of custom.
So, how's Emily?
She ain't waked yet. I hadn't heard a sound out of her.
Emily's asleep.
Well, no wonder we were up half the night sewing and cleaning. I tell you what, George, you sit here and have this cup of coffee with Mr. Webb, and I'll go upstairs and see she don't come down and surprise you. There's bacon, too. Just be quick about it.
Well, George, how are you?
I'm fine. Mr. Webb, what sort of common sense could there be in a superstition like that?
Well, George, on the wedding morning, a girl's head's full of, you know, clothes, one thing and another. Don't you think that's probably it?
I guess so.
Girls have to be a mite nervous on our wedding day.
I just wish someone could get married without all that marching up and down.
Every man that's ever lived felt that way, George. It hasn't been any use. It's the women folk who built up weddings, my boy. For a while now, the women have it all their own. Man looks pretty small at a wedding, George. All those fine women standing shoulder to shoulder, making sure the knot's tied in a mighty public way.
But you believe in it, don't you, Mr. Webb?
Oh, yes, yes. Now, don't misunderstand me, George. Marriage is a wonderful thing. A wonderful thing. Don't forget that.
I won't. Mr. Webb, how old were you when you got married?
Well, you see, I'd been to college, and I'd taken a little time to get settled. But Mrs. Webb, she wasn't much older than what Emily is. No, age hasn't much to do with it, George, compared with other things.
What are you going to say?
I don't know. Was I going to say something? George, I was remembering the other night the advice my father gave me when I got married. Yes, he said, Charles, he said, start right off showing who's boss. Best thing to do is to give an order about something, even if it don't make sense, just so she'll learn to obey. Then he said, if anything about her irritates you, her conversation or anything, get right up and leave the house. That'll make it clear to her. And oh yes, he said, never let your wife know how much money you have. Never.
Mr. Webb, I couldn't possibly.
So I took the opposite of his advice, and I've been happy ever since. Let that be a lesson to you, never to ask advice of anybody on personal matters. George, are you going to raise chickens on your farm?
What?
Are you going to raise chickens on your farm?
Yeah. Uncle Luke ain't been one to go in for chickens much, but I figure I'm reading up some.
Well, George, a book came into my office on the Philo system of raising chickens. I wish you'd read it. I'm thinking about beginning in a small way myself, in the backyard. I'm going to put an incubator in the cellar.
Charles Webb, are you talking about an incubator again? I thought you two'd be talking about things worthwhile.
Well, Myrtle, if you want to give the boys some good advice, I'll go upstairs.
Now, George, Emily's got to come down and eat her breakfast. She sends her love, but she doesn't want to lay her eyes on you, so goodbye.
Goodbye.
Myrtle, guess you didn't know about that older superstition?
Well, what's that, Charles?
Since the caveman, no bridegroom should see his father-in-law on the day of the wedding or near it. Now remember that!
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Webb. Well, I have to interrupt here again. You see, we all want to know how all this began, this wedding, this plan to live a lifetime together. I'm awfully interested in how big things like that begin. You know what I mean? You're 20, you're 21. You make some decision, and phew, you're 70. And you've been a lawyer for 50 years. And that white-haired woman by your side has taken over 50,000 meals with you. How does all that begin? Now, George and Emily are going to show you now the conversation they had when, as they say, they first knew they were meant for each other. But before they do, I want you to try and remember how it was when you were very young and when you were first in love. You know, it's kind of like you were sleepwalking. You didn't quite see the road you were walking in. You didn't quite hear what was being said to you. You were just a little bit crazy. Would you remember that, please? Now, they'll be coming out of high school at 3 o'clock. George has just been elected senior class president, and as this is June, he'll be president of the senior class all next year. And Emily's just been elected secretary and treasurer. Yeah, they're coming down Main Street now.
I can't, Louise. I've got to go home. Goodbye. Oh, Ernestine, can you come over tonight and do Latin? Isn't that Cicero just the worst thing? Well, tell your mother you have to. Goodbye, Helen. Goodbye, Fred.
Emily, can I carry your books home for you?
Why, thank you. It isn't far.
Oh, just 1 minute, will you? Say, Herb, if I'm a little late, start practice without me, and give Bob some nice high ones.
Goodbye, Lizzie.
Oh, goodbye, Lizzie. I'm awful glad you were elected, too.
Thank you.
Emily, why are you mad at me?
I'm not mad at you.
You've been treating me awful funny lately.
Well, since you asked me, George, I might as well say it right out. Oh, goodbye, Miss Corcoran.
Goodbye, Miss Corcoran. What is it?
I don't like the whole change that's come over you in the last year. I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, but I've just got to tell the truth and shame the devil.
A change? What do you mean?
Well, up to a year ago, I used to like you a lot, and I used to watch you while you did everything because we've been friends for so long. And then you started spending all of your time at baseball, and you never stopped to speak to anybody anymore, not to really speak, not even to your own family you didn't. And George, it's a fact. Ever since you've been elected captain, you've got awful stuck up and conceited, and all the girls say so. It hurts me to hear them say it, but I've got to agree with them a little because it's true.
Gosh, Emily, thought anything like that was happening to me. I guess it's hard for a fella not to have some faults creep into his character.
Well, I think a man should be perfect, and I expect him to be.
I don't think it's possible to be perfect, Emily.
Well, my father is, and as far as I can see, your father is, so there's no reason on earth why you shouldn't be too.
But I think it's the other way around, that men aren't naturally perfect, but girls are.
Well, you might as well know right now, George, that I'm not perfect. It's not as easy for a girl to be as perfect as a man because we girls are more nervous. Now, I'm sorry I said all that. I don't know what made me say it.
Emily.
And now I can see that it's not true at all, and suddenly I feel that it's not important anyway.
Emily, would you like an ice cream soda or something before we go home?
Well, yes, thank you, I would.
Hello, Stu. How are you? Oh, good afternoon, Mrs. Slocum.
Hello, George. Hello, Emily. What do you have? Why, Emily Webb? What have you been crying about?
Oh, she got an awful scare, Mr. Morgan. That hardware store wagon nearly ran her over. Everyone says Tom Huckins drives like a crazy person.
Here, take a good drink of water. You look all shook up. I tell you, you gotta look both ways before you cross Main Street these days. It's getting worse every year. What do you have?
I'll have a strawberry phosphate, Mr. Morgan.
No, have an ice cream soda with me.
Well,
2 strawberry ice cream sodas, please, Mr. Morgan.
2 strawberry ice cream sodas. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I gotta tell you, there are 225 horses in Grover's Corners this minute I'm talking to you. State inspector was just in here yesterday. Now they're bringing in these automobiles. Best thing to do is just stay home. Why, I can remember when dogs used to sleep in the middle of the street all day and nothing ever come to disturb them. There you are. Yes, Mrs. Ellis, be with you in a minute. What can I do for you?
they're so expensive.
No, you don't think of that. We're celebrating our election. You know what else I'm celebrating?
No.
I'm celebrating that I got a friend who tells me the things that ought to be told to me.
George, please don't think of that. I don't know what made me say it.
You stick to it. But I'm going to change so fast. You bet I'm going to change. And Emily, I want to ask you a favor.
What?
If I go to State Agriculture College next year, will you write me every once in a while?
I certainly will. I certainly will, George. It certainly seems that being gone 3 years, you'd get out of touch with things. I don't know if letters from Grover's Corners would be very interesting after a while. Grover's Corners isn't a very important place when you think of all New Hampshire, but I think it's a nice town anyway.
The day wouldn't come and I wouldn't want to know everything about our town. I know that's true.
Well, I'll try to make the letters interesting.
You know, every time I meet a farmer, I always ask him whether or not it's important to go to agriculture school to be a good farmer. Most of them say it's even a waste of time. You know, all that stuff in the pamphlets the government sends out. And Uncle Luke is getting old. He's about ready for me to take over tomorrow if I could.
Why?
And like you said, meeting all those people in other towns, if anything like that can happen, I don't want to go. New people aren't always as good as the old ones. They almost never are.
George, don't you think it's important for you to go and learn about cattle judging and soils and all of that? Of course, I don't know.
Emily, I'm making up my mind right now. I won't go. I'll tell Pa about it tonight.
Well, I don't see why you have to decide right now. It's a whole year away.
Emily, I'm glad you spoke to me about that fault in my character. What you said was true, but there was one thing wrong in it. That's where you said I wasn't noticing people. And you, for instance, you said you were watching me, what I was doing, and who I was with. I was doing the same thing about you the whole time. Why, sure, I always thought about you as one of the chief people I thought about. I always made sure where you were sitting in the bleachers and who you were with. And for 3 days now, I tried walking home with you. Just yesterday, I was standing over by the wall, waiting for you to come out, and you walked home with Miss Corcoran.
Oh, George, that's awful funny. How could I have known that? I thought...
Emily, I think once you found someone you're fond of, and and I mean, who's fond of you too and cares enough about your character, I think that's just as important as college is, and maybe even more so.
I think that's very important too.
Emily?
Yes, George?
Emily, if I do change, could you, I mean, would you?
I am now. I always have been.
So, this has been an important conversation we've been having.
Yes. Yes.
Wait just a minute and I'll walk you home. Mr. Morgan? Oh, Mr. Morgan. I'm gonna have to go home and get the money to pay you for these.
What's that, George? You mean to tell me?
Yes, but I have my reasons. Look, you can have my gold watch until I get back with the money.
That's all right, George. Keep your watch. I trust you.
I'll only be 5 minutes.
I'll trust you for 10 years, George, but not a day over. Are you all over your shock, Emily?
Yes, Mr. Morgan, thank you. It was nothing.
I'm ready.
Well now, let's get on to the wedding. There are a lot of things to be said about a wedding. There are a lot of thoughts go on during a wedding. We can't get them all into one wedding, particularly not one here in Grover's Corners, where weddings are mighty short and plain. Now, in this play, I take the part of the minister, and that gives me the right to say a few things more. You see, for some time, the play's been getting kind of serious. Some churches say that weddings are a sacrament. Now, I don't know what that means, but I can guess. It's like Mrs. Gibbs said a couple of moments ago, people are supposed to live 2 by 2. Now, this is a good wedding. The people in it are very young, but they come from a good state, and they made good choices. Now, the real hero of this wedding isn't on stage at all. And we all know who that is. It's like that European fellow said, every time a new child is born into the world, it's nature's attempt to make a perfect human being. Yeah, well, we've all seen nature pushing and contriving for some time now, and we all know she's interested in quantity. But I think she's interested in quality too. Maybe she's trying to make a new good governor for New Hampshire. That's what Emily hopes. And let's not forget the other witnesses to this wedding, the ancestors, millions of them. Most of them set out to live 2 by 2. Millions of them. Well, that's my sermon. It wasn't very long.
I don't know why on earth I should be crying. I suppose there's nothing to cry about. It's just that this morning at breakfast it came to me. There was Emily. She was sitting there eating her breakfast like she's done the last 17 years. She's going out of my house. I suppose that's it. And Emily, all of a sudden, she said, "I can't eat another mouthful." And she laid her head on the table and she cried. I've just got to say it. There's something downright cruel about the way we send these girls out into marriages. It's cruel, I tell you, but I couldn't say anything about it. I went into it blind as a bat myself. The whole world's wrong. That's what's the matter. Here they come.
Hey, George! George! Yahoo! Look at Darcy scattered back. Oh, George! Don't look so innocent, you old geezer. We know what you're thinking. Yeah. You big bloody old geezer, you.
All right. That's enough of that. Yeah. Used to be a lot of that sort of thing in the old days, back in Rome and later. We're more civilized now, so they say.
George, what's the matter?
I don't want to grow old. Why is everyone pushing me so?
Why you wanted it?
No, Ma, listen.
No, you're a man now, George.
Ma, listen. For the last time, all I want is to be a fella.
George, if anyone should hear you, now stop. I'm ashamed of you.
Where's Emily?
George, you gave me such a turn.
Cheer up, Ma. I'm getting married.
Let me catch my breath.
Now you save Thursday nights. Emily and I are coming over every Thursday night for dinner. You'll see. You look so funny. What have you been crying for? Come on. We've got to get ready for this.
I never felt so alone in my whole life. And George over there, I hate him. I wish I were dead. Papa!
Emily, now don't get upset.
But Papa, darling, I don't want to get married.
Everything's all right.
Why can't I just stay for a while just like I am?
Oh no, now stop and think a minute.
Don't you remember what you used to say all the time? That I was your girl. There must be lots of places we could go. I could work for you. I'd keep house.
Oh, no. You mustn't think of such things. You're just nervous. George, will you come here a minute? Well, you're marrying the best young fellow in the world. George is a fine fellow.
But Papa...
I'm giving away my daughter, George. Do you think you can take care of her?
I will, Mr. Webb. I'll try. Emily, I love you. I need you.
Well, if you love me, help me. All I want is someone to love me.
I will, Emily. I will.
And I mean forever. Do you hear? Forever and ever.
Come, they're waiting on us. Now, you know it'll be all right. Come quick.
Do you, George, take Emily?
It'll be a lovely wedding. Loveliest wedding I ever saw. Oh, I do love a good wedding, don't you? Doesn't she make a lovely bride?
I do.
Do you, Emily, take George to be your lawfully wedded husband?
I don't know when I've seen such a lovely wedding, but I always cry. I don't know why it is, but I always cry. I just like to see young people happy. Don't you?
I do.
Oh, I just think it's lovely.
You know, I've married over 200 couples in my day. Do I believe in it? I don't know. I suppose I do. M marries in millions of them. The go-kart, Sunday afternoon drives in the Ford, cottage, the first rheumatism, the grandchildren, the second rheumatism, the deathbed, the reading of the will. Once in 1,000 times, it's interesting.
Aren't they a lovely couple? I've never been to such a nice wedding, but I know they'll be happy. I always say happiness, that's the great thing. The most important thing is to be happy.
That's the second act, folks. 10-minute intermission. time 9 years have gone by, folks. Gradual changes coming to Grover's Corners. Horses getting rarer. Farmers coming to town in Fords. Everybody locks the doors at night. Ain't nobody singing the burglar, but they all heard about it. You'd be surprised, though, on the whole, things don't change very much around here. This is certainly an important part of Grover's Corners. It's a hilltop, a windy hilltop. Lots of sky and clouds. Lots of sun, moon, and stars, too. You come up here on a fine afternoon, you can see range on range of hills. Awful blue they are, up around Lake Sunapee, Lake Winnipesaukee. And if you go on up, you can see the White Mountains, Mount Washington, where Conway and North Conway are. And a favorite mountain, Mountain Napa, right here. And the towns around it, Jaffrey, Peterborough, Dublin, and down there, quite a ways, Grover's Corners. Yes, awful beautiful spot up here. Mountain laurel and lilac. Often wonder why people would want to be buried in woodlawn and brook when they might just as easily pass the same time up here in New Hampshire. Over there are the old stones. 1660s, 1670s. Strong-minded people. Come a long way to be independent. City people come up here in the summer, wander around, laughing at the funny words on the stones. It don't do no harm. And genealogists come up here. Come up here from Boston, sit by city people to check on their ancestors. Make sure that they are daughters of the American Revolution or of the Mayflower. That don't do any harm either. Over there, Civil War veterans. Iron flags on the graves. New Hampshire boys had an idea that the Union ought to be kept together, though they'd not seen more than 50 miles of it themselves. All they knew was the name, the United States of America. The United States of America. And they went out and they died about it. This is the new part of the cemetery. It's Mrs. Gibbs, Mr. Stimson, organist at the Congregational Church. Mrs. Soames, you remember her, she enjoyed the wedding so much. Lots of others too. Mr. Webb's boy, Wallace, whose appendix burst while he was on a Boy Scout trip to Crawford Notch. Yes, awful lot of sorrows just kind of quieted down up here. People just wild with grief have brought their relatives up to this hillside. And times, sunny days, rainy days, snow, we all know how it is. A lot of folks come up here day and night, but there ain't no post office. Now we all know some things, but we don't take them out and look at them very often. We all know that something is eternal. And it ain't houses, and it ain't names, and it ain't earth, ain't even stars. But deep in our bones, we all know that something is eternal. And that something has to do with human beings. All the greatest people ever to live have been telling us that for the last 5,000 years. But you'd be surprised how people are always letting you go with that fact. Yes. There's something deep down, eternal, in every human being. Now the dead don't stay interested in us living people very long. Gradually. They let go hold of the earth and the ambitions they had and the pleasures they had, the things they suffered and the people they loved. They get weaned away. That's the way I say it, weaned away. Yes, they stay here. They stay here while the earth part of them burns away, burns out. But slowly, they become indifferent to what's going on in Grover's Corners. They're waiting for something they feel is about to happen. Something great and important. Aren't they waiting for the eternal part of them to come out clear? Now, some of what they say may hurt your feelings. That's just the way it is. I mean, mother and daughter, husband and wife, enemy and enemy, money and miser, all those terribly important things just kind of grow pale up here. And what's left? What is left when the memory is gone? And your identity, Mrs. Smith. Well, here's some living people. There's Josiah, our undertaker, come to supervise a new made grave, and here's Sam Craig, Grover's Corners boy, left town to move out west.
Good afternoon, Joe Stoddard.
Good afternoon, good afternoon. Let me see now, do I know you?
I'm Sam Craig.
Well, gracious sakes alive, of all people. I should have known you'd be back for the funeral. You've been away a long time, Sam.
Yes, I've been away over 12 years. I'm in business out in Buffalo now, Joe. But I was in the East when I got news of my cousin's death. So I thought I'd combine things a little and come back and see the old home. You look well.
Yes, can't complain. Very sad, our journey today, Samuel.
Yes.
Yes, always say I hate to supervise when a young person's taken. Others will be up here in a few minutes now. I had to come up early. My son's supervising at the home.
Old Farmer McCarthy. I used to do chores for him after school. He had lumbago.
Yes, brought Farmer McCarty up here a number of years ago now.
Why, it's my Aunt Julia. I'd forgotten that she'd... Of course.
Yes, Doc Gibbs lost his wife 2-3 years ago, about this time. Today's another pretty bad blow for him, too.
That's my sister Carrie's boy, Sam Craig.
I'm always uncomfortable when they come around.
Simon.
Do they choose their own verses much, Joe?
No, not usual. Mostly the breed pick a verse.
Doesn't sound like my Aunt Julia. Well, there aren't too many of those Hersey sisters left now, I suppose. Let me see. I wanted to see my mother's and father's.
They'd be there with the Craigs over in Avenue F.
He was an organist at church, wasn't he? Drank a lot, we used to say.
Nobody was supposed to know about that. He'd seen a peck of trouble. Took his life, you know.
Oh, did he?
Hung himself in the attic. Of course, they tried to cover it up, but of course it got out. Now, he wrote his own epitaph. You can see it there. Ain't a verse, exactly.
Why, it's just some notes of music. What is it?
Oh, I wouldn't know, but it was wrote up in the Boston paper at the time.
Joe, what did she die of?
Who?
My cousin.
Oh, you mean you don't know? Had some trouble bringing a baby into the world. 'Twas her second, though. There was a little boy, about 4 years old.
And the grave's going to be over here?
Ain't much more room over there among the Gibbses, so they're opening up a whole new Gibbs section over at Avenue B. You'll excuse me, I see they're coming.
Julia?
My daughter-in-law, Emily Webb.
Well, I declare. The road up here must have been awful muddy. What did she die of, Julia?
In childbirth.
Childbirth. Forgotten all about that. My, wasn't life awful and wonderful?
Wonderful, was it?
Simon, now remember.
I remember Emily's wedding. Wasn't it a lovely wedding? And I remember her reading the class poem at graduation exercises. Emily was one of the brightest girls that ever graduated from high school. I remember Principal Wilkins said so time after time. I called on them at their new farm just before I died. Perfectly beautiful farm.
It's on the same road we lived on.
Right smart farm. I've always liked that hymn. I was hoping they would sing a hymn.
Hello, Emily.
Hello, Miss Gibbs.
Hello, Mother Gibbs.
Emily.
Hello. It's raining.
Yes. They'll be gone soon, dear. Just rest yourself.
Seems thousands and thousands of years since Papa remembered that was my favorite hymn. Well, I wish I'd been here a long time. I don't like being new here. Oh, how do you do, Mr. Stimson?
How do you do, Emily?
Mother Gibbs. George and I have made that farm into just the best place you ever saw. We thought of you all the time. We wanted to show you the new barn and a great long cement drinking fountain for the stock. We bought it out of the money you left us.
You did?
Don't you remember, Mother Gibbs? The legacy you left us? It was over $350.
Oh, yes. Yes, Emily.
Well, there's a patent device on this drinking fountain so that it never overflows and it never sinks below a certain point they have there. It's fine. It won't be the same to George without me, but it's still a lovely farm. Live people don't understand, do they?
No, dear, not very much.
They're sort of shut up in little boxes. I feel as though I knew them last 1,000 years ago. My boy is spending the day at Mrs. Morgan's house. Oh, Mr. Morgan, my boy is spending the day at your house.
Is he?
Yes, he loves it there. Mother Gibbs, we have a Ford, too. It never gives any trouble. I don't drive, though. Oh, Mother Gibbs, when will this feeling go away of being one of them? How long does it...
Shh, dear. Just wait and be patient.
I know. Look, they're finished. They're going. Look, Father Gibbs, he's bringing some of my flowers to you. He looks just like George, doesn't he? I never realized how troubled and how in the dark live persons are. Look at him. I loved him so. From morning till night, that's all they are. Troubled.
Cooler than it was.
The rain cooled it off a little.
But northeast winds always do the same thing, don't they? If it ain't rain, it's a 3-day blow.
But Mother Gibbs, One can go back. One can go back there again into living. I feel it. I know it. Why, just for a moment I was thinking about the farm, and for a minute I was there, and my baby was on my lap as plain as day.
Yes, dear, of course you can.
I can go back and live all those days over again. Why not?
Some
All
do.
I can say is, Emily, don't.
But it's true, isn't it? I can go and live back there again.
Some do. But they soon come back here.
Don't do it, Emily.
Emily, don't. It's not what you think it'd be.
Well, I won't choose a sad day. I'll choose a happy one. I'll choose the day I first knew I loved George. Oh, no, why should that be painful?
You not only live it, but you watch yourself living it.
Yes?
And as you watch yourself, you see the thing that they down there can never know. You see the future, what's going to happen afterwards.
But is that painful? Why?
That's not the only reason why you shouldn't do it, Emily. When you've been here longer, you'll see that our life here is to forget all that and think only of what is ahead and be ready for what is ahead. When you've been here longer, you'll understand.
But Mother Gibbs, how can I ever forget that life? It's all I know. It's all I had.
Oh, Emily. It isn't wise. Really, it isn't.
But it's something I must know for myself. I'll choose a happy day anyway.
No. At least choose an unimportant day. Choose the least important day in your life. It will be important enough.
Then it can't be since I was married or since the baby was born. I can choose a birthday at least, can't I? I choose my 12th birthday.
All right. It's February 11th, 1899. A Tuesday. You want any special time of day?
Oh, I want the whole day.
We'll begin at dawn. You remember it had been snowing for several days, but it stopped the night before, and they'd begun clearing the roads. The sun's coming up.
Look, there's Main Street. And there's Mr. Morgan's drugstore before he changed it. And the livery stable.
Yes, it's 1899. It's 14 years ago.
That's the town I knew as a young girl. And look, there's the white fence that used to be around our house. I've forgotten that. I love it so. Are they inside?
Yes. Your mother will be coming downstairs in a minute to fix breakfast.
Will she?
And you remember your father had been away a couple days. He came back on the early morning train.
No.
He'd been back to his college to make a speech in western New York at Clinton.
There's Howie Newsom. And there's our policeman. But he's dead. He died.
Whoa, Betsy. Morning, Bill. Morning, Al. You're up early.
There's Joe Crowell.
Morning, Mr. Warren. Morning, Howard. Morning, Joe. Children, Wally, Emily, time to get up.
Mama, I'm here. Oh, look how young Mama looks. I never knew Mama was ever that young.
You can come to us by the kitchen fire if you like. Just hurry. Oh, good morning, Mr. Newsom.
Morning, Miss Webb.
Woo, it's cold.
Heading to below by my barn.
Think of it. Keep yourself wrapped up.
Come on, Bessie.
Mama, I can't find my blue hair ribbon anywhere.
Just open your eyes, dear. That's all. I laid it out perfect for you. If it'd been a snake, it would have bit you.
Yes, yes.
Morning, Bill.
Morning, Miss Webb. You up early?
Yeah, just been back to my old college in New York State. Been any trouble here?
I was called up this morning to rescue a Polish fellow. Donya Rosa dead you were.
We must get it in the paper.
Twan Nash.
Morning, Mother.
How's it going, Charles?
Oh, fine, I guess. I told him a few things. Everything all right here?
Yeah, can't think of much exciting that's happened. It's been right cold. Howie Newsom says it's 10 below down to his barn.
Well, it's colder than that at Hamilton College. Students' ears are falling off. It ain't Christian. Paper have any mistakes in it?
None that I noticed. Coffee's ready when you want it, Charles. Don't forget it's Emily's birthday. Do you remember to get her anything?
Yes, I've got something here. Where is my girl? Where's my birthday girl?
Don't interrupt her. You can see her at breakfast. She's slow enough as it is. Children, hurry up. I don't want to have to call you again.
Oh, I can't bear it. They're so young and beautiful. Why did they ever have to get old? Mama, I'm here. I'm grown up. I love you all, everything. I can't look at everything hard enough. Can I go in? Good morning, Mama.
Well, a very happy birthday to my girl and many happy returns. There's surprises for you on the kitchen table.
Oh, Mommy, you shouldn't have.
Well,
I can't.
Birthday or no birthday, you get over here and eat your breakfast good and slow. I want you to grow up to be a good, strong girl. Now that in the blue, that's from your Aunt Carrie, and I reckon you know who brought the postcard album. Found it this morning early on the doorstep when I brought in the mail. George Gibbs. He must have come out in the cold pretty early. Right nice of him.
George, I'd forgotten that. Oh.
Chew your bacon good and slow. Help keep you warm on a cold day.
Oh, Mama, would you just look at me 1 minute as though you really saw me? Mama, 14 years have gone by. I'm dead. You're a grandmother, Mama. I married George Gibbs, Mama. Wally said, too. His appendix burst on a camping trip to Crawford Notch. We felt just terrible about it. Don't you remember? But just for a moment, now we're all together. Just for a minute, let's be happy. Let's look at one another.
That and the yellow I found up in the attic among your grandmother's things. You're old enough to wear it now, and I thought you might like it.
And this is from you. It's lovely, and it's just what I wanted. It's beautiful.
Well, I was hoping you'd like it. I hunted all over for it. Your Aunt Nora couldn't find one up in Concord, and I had to send all the way to Boston for it. Wally got you something, too. He's real proud of it, so you make sure you make a fuss over it. Your father got you a surprise, too. Don't know what it is myself. Shh, here he comes.
Where's my girl? Where's my birthday girl?
Oh, I can't go on. It goes so fast. We don't have time to look at one another. I never realized. So all that was going on and we never even noticed. Take me back. Up the hill. To my grave. But first, wait. One more look. Goodbye. Goodbye, world. Goodbye, Grover's Corners. Goodbye, Mama and Papa. And clocks ticking. Oh, and my butternut tree. And Mama's sunflowers. And food and coffee. And new iron dresses and hot baths. And sleeping and waking up. Oh, Earth, you're too wonderful for anyone to realize you. Do any human beings ever realize life while they live it? Every minute?
No. Saints and poets, maybe. They do some.
I'm ready to go back.
Were you happy?
No, I should have listened to you. That's all human beings are. Just blind people.
Look, it's clearing up. The stars are coming out.
Mr. Stinson, I should have listened to them.
Yes. Yes, now you know what it was to be alive. Move about in a cloud, going up and down, in ignorance, trampling on the feelings of those about you, spending and wasting time as though you had a million years, and always at the mercy of some central passion for another. Yes, that's the happy existence you wanted to go back to. Ignorance and blindness.
That ain't the whole truth, and you know it, Simon Stinson. Emily, look at that star. I forget its name.
My boy Joel was a sailor, knew them all. He used to sit on the porch evenings and tell them all by name. Yes, sir. Wonderful.
Stars are mighty good companions.
Yes, they are.
There's one of them coming now.
That's funny. It ain't no time for them to be here.
Mother Gibbs, look, it's George.
Shh, dear, just rest yourself.
It's George.
And my Joel, who knew all the stars, he used to say it took millions of years for that little speck of light to get down to Earth. Don't seem like a body could believe it, but that's what he used to say. Millions of years.
Goodness. That ain't no way to behave.
You ought to be home.
Mother Gibbs,
Yes, Emily.
they don't understand, do they?
No, dear. They don't understand.
Most everybody's asleep in Grover's Corners. Few lights are on. Shorty Hawkins down at the depot. Just watched the Albany train go by. Somebody's down at the livery stable, sitting up late and talking. Cleared up. Stars doing the old crisscross across the sky. Scholars haven't settled the matter yet, but they mostly think there's no living beings up there. Just fire and chalk. Only this one is straining away. And the strain is so great that every 16 hours, everybody gets to lie down and take a rest. It's 11 o'clock in Grover's Corners. Most everybody's resting in Grover's Corners. Tomorrow will be another day. You get a good rest too. Good night.